People ask me why I spent 10 years making this film. And the answer that I have to that question is that this is a story that is important to each and every American, because it's a story of who we are as a nation.
Liberty is dear to my heart. I cannot endure the thought that my countrymen should be slaves. Revolutionary War veteran Samuel Harris.
Hello, I'm Colin Powell, and I was an American soldier for 35 years. I was a black American soldier, and I followed in a long tradition of black men and women who have served this nation since long before our Revolutionary War. For so many years, they served their nation without their nation ever serving them. They served because they believed in this nation. They believed in the promise of our democracy. They believed in what the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution said. But for so many years, they were denied the rights and the privileges that other Americans enjoyed. Their story isn't well known. Their story was suppressed. Historians did not write about it well enough. But there's a wonderful story. It is the story of a group of Americans who never lost their love of this country, never lost their faith in what the Founding Fathers had promised. And that's why this story is simply called For Love of Liberty.
The record of this nation's African-American servicemen and women is a heroic story draped in irony. Why, despite enormous injustice, did these determined individuals fight so valiantly for freedoms they themselves did not enjoy? The answer to this question can be found in the letters, diaries, thoughts, and reflections of those who were there. Their words are relevant to every American and speak of courage, honor, duty, and sacrifice for love of liberty. I'm Halle Berry, and this is their story.
In 1864, Richmond, Virginia was one of the most heavily fortified cities in America. The stronghold was the capital of the Confederacy and defended by the rebels' most capable officer, General Robert E. Lee. Abraham Lincoln ordered the city captured, and it took General Ulysses S. Grant 10 months to do it.
Here was war indeed. Upon its grandest scale and in all its infinite variety. The tireless march under the burning sun, chilling frosts and driven tempests, the rush and roar of the man charge, with disease adding its horrors to the decimation of shot and shell. Here, the Negro stood in the full glare of the greatest searchlight, part and parcel of the grandest armies ever mustered upon this continent, competing side by side with the best and bravest of the Union Army against the flower of the Confederacy. Sergeant Major Christian Fleetwood.
For the United States colored troops, the siege of Richmond came to a head at the Battle of New Market Heights. There, on the morning of September 29th, black soldiers from General Benjamin Butler's Army of the James led the attack. Their battle cry was, "Remember Fort Pillow." They were decimated as waiting Confederates poured out of earthen trenches to kill hundreds in hand-to-hand combat.
It was a deadly hailstorm of bullets, sweeping men down as hailstones sweep the leaves from trees. We struggled through the two lines, but it was sheer madness, and those of us who were able had to get out as best we could. I have never been able to understand how I lived under such a hail of bullets. Sergeant Major Christian Fleetwood.
In 80 minutes of fighting, black troops suffered terrible losses. But when the shooting stopped, New Market Heights belonged to the Union Army.
As I rode along this line of charge, there lay in my path the dead and wounded of my colored comrades. I felt in my heart that the capacity of the Negro race for soldiers had then and there been fully settled forever. A few more such gallant charges, and to command colored troops will be the post of honor in the American armies. Major General Benjamin Butler.
Later that day, 9 officers and 189 men of the 7th United States Colored Troops stormed nearby Fort Gilmer. All but 1 were killed, wounded, or captured. Their commanding officer, Captain Julius A. Weiss, would later say,
"It was a time for manly tears."
14 black soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor for their heroism at Newmarket Heights, including Christian Fleetwood.
Never again while time lasts will the doubt arise as in 1861. Will the Negro fight? As a problem, it has been solved. As a question, it has been answered. And as a fact, it is as established as the eternal hills. Sergeant Major Christian Fleetwood.
One of the most shocking things I learned in this film is how the soldiers were treated when they came home. We talk about Vietnam and how terrible it was when those of us who served in that war, not that I was in Vietnam, but was in the Navy at that time, when we were out of the service, we were told, don't wear your uniform. When you left the base, don't put your uniform on. You're not supposed to talk about your service. You were not greeted as a hero or and we to this day continue to talk about how terrible that was, and it was terrible. But that's what happened to every single black soldier that returned from every single war that this country ever fought, up and through Korea.
As history has vividly demonstrated, what ultimately needed to be asked wasn't would the Negro fight, but rather why. As African American servicemen and women continue to shed their blood in the defense of the United States, the answer to that question is abundantly clear. Like all Americans in all wars, African Americans fought for love of liberty.